and welcome on this game day to Keeping It True by You, LSU. This is, of course, your game day get ready episode for LSU versus Nicholls State, and that'll be going down, of course, on campus, 6:30 p.m. kickoff. So it'll be a night game to welcome in the 100-year anniversary of Tiger Stadium. Very excited for this one. A lot of improvements that have been made over the off season. You're going to get to see a lot of different experiences at Tiger Stadium this year, and just a good time to get back with all your friends, with the tailgate group, whoever you're going out to see, whoever you're going out with. It's going to be a good time, and we're excited to see it here on this episode of Keeping It True by You, LSU Tigers. So what we're going to do today, because this game, if we're being honest, is going to be on the football field rather mundane. This is an opportunity to get a lot of experience for players. This is an opportunity to use your redshirt players while you have the opportunity up to 4 games plus a bowl game. So these are traditionally games where you will get to see a lot of the players that otherwise during significant play would be using their red shirt. So we'll be excited to see some of the younger people. And we're also going to be excited to see what comes of the result that was rendered in Vegas. That game showed a lot of promise, but now the promise has to be replicated in an entirely different setting. You were on national television with a completely packed house and everybody on the edge of their seat the whole game. Now you're going to be playing with a primarily packed house of people who are primarily checked out once the score goes up by about 4 touchdowns. You're going to be playing with a lot of friends and family for the first time for many players. You're going to be playing with a lot of what I hope to be positive recognition of what is the significance of some of these people coming into the game and people who are going to be paying attention to how they play the game. So let's go ahead. Let's start breaking it down. I'm going to give you some things to look at. This is going to be sort of giving you a perspective of how you could maybe elevate a watching experience for a game like LSU Nicholls. By the way, let's go and get some of the fun facts out. This is Nicholls' first time ever playing LSU. They were going to play us in 2020 during the COVID year. That became the COVID year. So whenever the SEC decided that they were not going to play non-conference opponents that year, and it was going to be all inter-conference opponents, the Nicholls game was lost. You had several other games that year that were lost. You had the return trip from Texas after the Joe Burrow game at Texas. You also lost games against UTSA that year, just to name a few. For those of you who may have forgotten the great fun time the 10-game SEC season was. But thankfully, we're in a much better place overall now to be able to enjoy this game the way how it's truly going to be enjoyable, because one thing that, you can say you don't like run-and-wins, you can say you don't like cupcake opponents. There's a big difference between Central Michigan coming down to LSU and Nicholls coming to LSU. When Nicholls comes, when Southern, Grambling, Southeastern, whoever it is, you name it, you know that people are going to be coming into the market. There's going to be a larger influx of people. A lot of people will tell you for these games that, these fan bases, they're not going to put the regular economic impact you might see. Fact of the matter is, whenever there's 10,000 Nicholls fans versus 2,500, let's pick a team, Eastern Michigan fans, I think you may see a little bit of a larger influx of dollars from that Nicholls contingency, just to name an example. But I'm excited for the game back in Tiger Stadium. What a great feeling. It'll be Saturday night in Death Valley, and this is what you should be looking for during Game 1 of the LSU home season schedule. So we know that John Emery will now be out for the year following his knee injury. This means that Brian Kelly and the Tigers are already taking steps to reshape what the running back position will look like. Now, you didn't lose players like Josh Williams. You didn't lose Caleb Jackson. These two theoretically were on paper RB1 and RB2 going into Game 1, but we then saw the much more significant impact that John Emery was providing as a 6-year senior. You'd have to hope that maybe you would have gotten some sort of that senior leadership within that capacity, and you did. But now with him gone, how will you replace it? This is where Tiger fans should be looking at the game. Is a matter of how do you replace, how do you put guys in that normally aren't going to play unless there's a reason for them to be playing, and what will they do with that opportunity? Some names you may want to look out for. Caden Durham is one of the top ranked running backs from the 2024 class that is now going to be put into a maybe more immediate or a more accelerated path to playing time. I don't necessarily think you should expect, again, with your on paper RB1 and RB2 and Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson still being healthy and ready to go, to see significant downs from this player, but it is something to keep an eye on. Brian Kelly also moved Juwan Johnson. Yes, that is a different Juwan Johnson, an incredibly talented Juwan Johnson than the Saints tight end. But yes, Juwan Johnson, who is a top-ranked, record-setting freshman from the high school ranks of Louisiana, he was beginning his time at LSU. Remember, he came in as a athlete is the way how you would think of it, and he was being trained and getting ready to become a safety. But at this time, Brian Kelly has now moved him to start practicing with the running backs, playing an offensive role much more similar to what he did in high school. Remember, this player is two-way talented and can play both sides of the ball. It'll be nice to see if any playing time comes in this game. If Juwan gets to go and touch the ball, I'd be excited to watch that. And then there's another one that you may want to look out for, and that is, of course, Xavion Thomas. Xavion Thomas primarily will be acting as a wide receiver in this offense, but when things like maybe jet sweeps get incorporated a bit more, or maybe some of those toss dives we saw during game one, I think that's a place where you'll get to see Xavion Thomas touch the ball. I think he's going to be a major player as the season develops. You saw a good performance against USC, 11.5 yards on the catching side of things. On punt returns, had some solid punt returns, no muffs, and then on kick returns as well. He's going to be all over the field. Xavion Thomas wearing the number 0, so do be watching out for him as things get going here. Now, on the quarterback side of things, you want to really be ready for what's going to happen. It is, to my knowledge and to my best ability, to be able to say that it is realistic that Nuss and the overall offense as a whole should be able to pretty quickly and pretty definitively take over the game. Should be able to have between players like Kyron Lacy, CJ Daniels on the receiving side of things, a player that you want to be looking out for as well. Those two should be able to get around the Nicholls secondary pretty quickly. Joe Sloan being a quarterback coach, Cortez Hankton being a wide receivers coach, those two should be able to put together a game plan where you can easily outwork and out-scheme an FCS opponent given the talent disparity. That being said, if Nuss is out of this game by halftime, that is a win for LSU fans. Now, a lot of you say, well, I want to watch the starting quarterback. I want to see what he can do. The fact of the matter is, you're at a position to where Garrett Nussmeier needs to be protected at all costs. Not to say that he doesn't have backups that could play, but for SEC play, your best chance of winning is with number 13 on the field for as long as humanly possible. So getting him off of the field against opponents that will not be critical to your college football playoff run is a non-negotiable. What will be critical, though, is who comes in following Garrett Nussmeier. The media notes and the presented depth charts for Game 1 showed Ricky Collins as QB2, the sophomore, redshirt freshman, I believe, technically, who came in from Woodlawn last year, came in sort of as an athlete, but got settled in the quarterback role and got a few appearances throughout the year in 2023, coming in behind Nussmeier. he should, at this point, have the best understanding of the playbook, the best understanding of the system. I don't know if the arm talent, I don't know if the physical is matching the knowledge side of things right now, but that's what games are for. That's why we play opponents like Nicholls, to get to see this in live game speed that you cannot necessarily replicate on a practice field. Keep an eye out there. You also have A.J. Swan, transfer quarterback, who's coming in. He'll get to have his first live action in Tiger Stadium in this game. Another player that you want to, again, see how is he performing. Had some solid play in the SEC. Had the opportunity to touch the ball in the SEC. He has maybe a bit more awareness of the game speed, but has he fully understood the system? Now, another player that I would say is unlikely to see in this game, just by the nature of the way how it is being played, would be Colin Hurley. This is now the 17-year-old, 16 at time of enrollment, quarterback who got classified into the 2024 class and put on a good performance, in my personal opinion, at the spring game. And Brian Kelly has sung his praises since then, saying that he is picking up the system much faster than anticipated. I don't know if he's going to have an opportunity in this game. I certainly can't believe that you would put him in a situation like a FBS opponent in South Alabama. Maybe you could see if there's some garbage time opportunity even later in the year. But honestly, if there's a game, it should be Nicholls. I don't know if he touches the field, but he certainly wouldn't be at risk of burning a red shirt. I'd like to see the young man get a chance to go out there and really prove what he can do with, like I said, some live game speed in college football. But those are some of the quarterback things to look out for. I see this being a 40-plus point victory. I see this being a 3 touchdown plus lead going into the half. Nicholls, for those of you who are not keeping up with Louisiana football, make sure to check out Keeping It True by You in Louisiana, as we recap all the major Southland Conference games where Nicholls plays and won last year. Self-plug. Nevertheless, Nicholls is a very competent team. Nicholls is a team that is led by a lot of some of the best players that come out of the state of Louisiana. These are going to be a lot of the 1, 2, low 3 stars, in some cases mostly 1 and 2 stars. Very successful programs. Catholic High, John Curtis, teams like this. That's where you see these players end up. A lot of times, you talk about high school football and you say, oh, well, if you didn't end up at, one of the major 5 FBS schools in Louisiana, did you continue playing? The answer is yes. A lot of these players continue to play at schools like Nicholls, Southeastern, Northwestern State. This is where they are. McNeese, of course. And a lot of them are very excited whenever they have the opportunity to go play in Tiger Stadium, bring 30 family members, and get to show out in a way that they may have not thought was possible whenever they signed to a FCS school. So be on the lookout. You're going to see some names you may have heard before. Like I said, during the past few high school football championships, things of the sort, there's going to be a lot of entertaining football being played. Maybe not high profile and maybe not competitive on the scoreboard, but entertaining football nevertheless. One entertaining thing to look out for is that Damian Ramos, the kicker, of course, is going to continue to get a lot of opportunities to put points on the board in this game. Now, why am I telling you about the kicker who has the job definitively locked up and played very well in the USC game? Well, he is moving up the all-time charts in points scored for the Tigers. He realistically, by the end of this game, should be in, I believe, 6th all-time, and by the end of the season, depending on how many points get put up against some of the more quality opponents, I could see Damian Ramos getting very close to getting into the top 3 all-time, if not the top 4, which is a lot to say for someone who hasn't been on campus all that long. But when you win the job as a freshman, you have the opportunity to put together these type of statistics. Damian Ramos has a realistic shot by the time that he leaves LSU to be the highest scoring player ever in program history. So shout out to Damien. Shout out to everything that he does on the team. A lot of times we don't get to talk about some of these players because we're focused on the big matchup. We're focused on the SEC interplay and so forth and so on. But let's give a little bit of a shout out to some of those players. Another one that you're going to continue to see is the punting application. You had 2 punters last game between Peyton Todd and Blake. I'm still working on your last name, but I'm going to try it again. Orschendorf. Might be wrong there, but nevertheless, those 2 are going to continue to be battling, used situationally. I don't know if we're going to get to a point this season where there's a definitive every 4th down punter, but you saw very similar performance given the fact that it was multiple types of roles with an average of 38 and 39 yards respectively, both putting one inside the 20 of their opportunities. So we'll see what happens there. And you also had Burrell, who's your kickoff specialist. Man, that tackle in open field play, whenever you had the injury and you had a USC player that was about to break one open, the one that he didn't put in for a touchback, an open field tackle was very good for the brand. So love to see that from special teams, giving them a little bit of a shout out in this game. But one thing to sort of circle back to as we get ready to end this episode, like I said, there's not a ton on the field you really need to be looking for except player development. This is a player development game. This is a player development type of thing. Yes, I do have the line there in the graphic, as I always do. You're getting it somewhere between 49 and 50. Look, personally, the way how we've played against FCS opponents of late, I'd say you're probably going to be safe taking that, but as I have in the disclaimer of every single episode, it's for entertainment purposes only, does not render legal or financial advice. Make that bet on your own good faith. But do I think LSU is going to put up 7 touchdowns total? Yes. Do I think LSU is going to put up 7 more touchdowns than Nicholls will? Probably. Brian Kelly is not afraid to let points fly. Of course, highest scoring game in his tenure was 72 against Grambling, something you never would have seen in the Les Miles era. Coach O kind of dabbled with it, but he'd normally call the dogs off at 60. It just kind of depends on where he was feeling that day. So I think, the cool thing in college football is to drop 70 opponents on your opponent. I don't see Nicholls scoring 21 points. So do the math there. The over-under 62. Do the math there. Right now it seems like the chance of rain is never, but could it drizzle from the sky? It's not looking likely. So I feel pretty confident the offense is going to move effectively. Turnovers are going to be something to watch out for, particularly if you're having extended play from A.J. Swan, Ricky Collins, Colin Hurley. If there's an interception, one of those could come back. I do not want to see a wide receiver or a running back pulling a hamstring, chasing someone down. If they house it, they house it, and Nicholls gets to score some points, gets their fans very excited. You saw something like that. Not necessarily in that regard, but as far as, not fighting overly hard to, defeat a 35-point victory versus a 49-point victory. I don't think at that point that's keys to the game for the players. I don't think that's keys to what they're going to do to be able to get more minutes. So at that point, save yourself, save the team, save the depth. Remember, save the depth. You have to get through this 4-game stretch. Nicholls, South Carolina, UCLA, following with the ending of South Alabama. You have to get through that 4-0 to give yourself a shot to rebound back into the top 10 with a victory over a presumably undefeated at the time Ole Miss. Have to do it. It's a requirement. And that's going to be where the Tigers are focused on in this game. This has been a game day preview episode here on Keeping It True by You LSU Tigers. quick shout out before we go. We always put some of the latest scores from around campus. This will become more relevant once we switch over to winter and spring sport mode, where we're covering men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, gymnastics all at the same time. That will be more relevant, but for now we're getting into the practice of it. LSU soccer has been on a pretty good tear of late. You've been seeing some very good road performances. They did come to a draw with now Big 12 opponent, Utah. It's a very good game, very good goal there. Be sure to watch that highlight if you want to see some of that. Honestly, LSU soccer, I think, is one of the more entertaining main sports on campus. I personally have attended several soccer games in my day. If you're into the sport at all, you're going to have a good time. Go ahead and watch a game. Head over. It's usually free. Another sport that is not quite free, but is also very entertaining. And, we don't have the maybe intensity that a school like Nebraska or Wisconsin does. But LSU volleyball, you oftentimes will have the arena band in there. It's a good time. Bengal brass basketball band, or I guess volleyball band too. But nevertheless, LSU defeated Duke at Cameron Indoor in 3-1. That was a pretty good match as well, if you're looking to get some of the midweek content that you may have missed while you're getting ready, loading up the car, so forth and so on, driving over from somewhere within the state, or just you're kicking back on the couch getting ready to watch on the SEC Network Plus. That means if you have a cable subscription, it is not on ESPN Plus. It is on the SEC Network Plus. Sign in with your cable provider. Unless you're a DirecTV member, then you're kind of screwed, and you may want to find a local bar that's playing the game. It's just kind of where we are. Maybe that will get resolved. I certainly hope it does, because I'm not going to be in my regular confines for some of these upcoming games, so I need to get things ready to be able to watch no matter where I'm at. But nevertheless, we are appreciative of you watching this show wherever you are at. The best way to get a hold of it is, of course, hitting the follow button, wherever that might be. Subscribe as well if you're on YouTube, and turn on notifications. Get the information as quickly as you can. Plus, if you're listening to us on one of the many podcast platforms, thank you, of course. We appreciate you, audio listeners. Please do remember to download the episode and set us to download automatically, so that way you, again, get the information as quickly as possible. Well, my name is Donald. I've been your host for this and every episode of Keeping It True by You, LSU Tigers. We're looking forward to a fun in-state matchup, and it's going to be a great day. Everybody enjoy the game. We'll be back for a post-game recap after the weekend, after we get to see Saints Week 1. You'll get to see Keeping It True by You Saints before that game kicks off, so you can get your information there if you're interested in that content as well. We have a little bit more, of course, on True by You Sports Media Primetime, talking about everything going on throughout the state. Well, it's going to be a great weekend, and we thank you again for watching. Everybody have a good one.
This has been a True by You Media production. This show is for entertainment purposes only and does not render legal or financial advice. Remember to bet responsibly. Distribution of this podcast is prohibited without the express written consent of True by You Media or its subsidiaries. Thanks for being true by us. We can't wait until next time we keep it true by you.